So here in this chart, as you can see, you have taxa at the top and you have the characters down on the side. This is a chart. The X means they have those character. The taxa have those character. You'll note that this is a taxa can be species. That's what you see here, species, right? But they could be phylum, they could be kingdoms, they could be anything you want, right? And by now, if you've done your homework, then you know what I'm saying when you were talking about phylum or species or kingdom, right? So the vertebra, the shark have vertebra, right? And they have all the characters. And here you have this human has only the placenta, but it doesn't have. But you'll notice that the human, has all the characters, where the shark only has one of the characters. Does that make sense? So which do you think is oldest? Assuming one of our assumptions, remember our three assumptions, you shouldn't remember, because if you have an F on that quiz, you need to memorize those and come and retake it, right? I'm saying that out loud because some of you do have an F on that quiz. Please retake it. So you have to know those three assumptions. And one of those three assumptions was that you inherited these traits that you have from a common ancestor, right? So if we all inherited our traits from a common ancestor and we all have those traits, what do you think that means about all these creatures that we have a common ancestor? Everybody that has a vertebra has a common ancestor. Can you agree with that so far? Okay, can we have a trait that did not come from a common ancestor? Yes, right? But if the trait is shared, truly shared among species, then we kind of head towards the idea that we share a common ancestor. So which of these is the oldest and which is the newest? Yeah. The shark is what? Oldest. Why is it the oldest? It's only one characteristic. It just shares the least amount of characteristics among all the species. So that's kind of how we went. So we drew our Venn diagram and we saw the shark is on the outside because it's the oldest, and we started going to the newest on the inside, right? That's our Venn diagram. So we draw our line. There's our line. Vertebra is the oldest character. There it is. Or vertebra is the oldest character. And of course, sharks have it. So that's good. The next one's two pairs of limbs. There it is. And then the bullfrog and the mammary glands, right? And then the kangaroo and placenta are humans. Because even though kangaroos and humans both have mammary glands and two pairs of limbs and vertebra, only humans in this group of taxas, only humans have placenta. The characters. Okay, good. So this is a learning experience. So you put the characters on the main line, and at the ends you put the taxa. Is that clear? Okay, so let's look at a much more complicated. This was an example for you, right? Now let's look at a more complicated. Okay, I don't know. I'm not going to argue. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying I don't think you did, but that may be the case, and I just didn't look at it clearly enough. You can see me after class. So which of these is the oldest of the species here? Which of these? Huh? The sponge. Why? Because it only has one character, and that's cells with flagella. And then after that, obviously, there's various organizational hierarchies. In other words, there's various connections between the taxa. Remember, taxa can be species. In this case, they are species. So the sponge is the oldest because it has the most number of characters. So let's go ahead and draw our circles, right? Let's draw our main circle, which is going to have, what character is it that defines, I'm going to put cells with flagella, I'm going to put CF. Is that okay? Cells with flagella. How many of these organisms have cells with flagella? All of them have it. How is it? Do you remember what a flagella looks like?
Isn't it rock shaped?
Yeah, that's right. It's a wavy little, it's a little tail. Basically, it's a tail, right, that allows the cells to move. What human cell has a tail that allows it to move? Somebody said it. Sperm, yeah, sperm have it. So we do have human cells that have it. Of course, it's the males of our species that have these cells. However, the point is humans do have them, as rare as they are. So cells with flagella, every organism has it. What's the next character on our list here? Symmetry, right? Characters. So symmetry is the next one. I'm going to put S, if that's okay, just to save space. What organism has symmetry but does not, it has cells with flagella, but has no symmetry? So it's sponge. So what organism goes in between, before, which one's outside the circle for symmetry? The sponge. So sponge would be here in our diagram. So if you did the Venn diagram incorrectly, especially if I mentioned it to you, then you need to make sure you understand that these are the characters. The circle represents everything within that circle has that character. And of course the species is then, in this case, is labeled in red. Do I have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would the circles be the Venn diagram then?
The Venn diagram are the circles, right? All right, so here in a Venn diagram are any circles overlapping or otherwise that wherever they overlap, they share whatever it is that they're sharing. In this case, they're concentric circles, so what that means is that everything within this circle has what? Cells with flagella. Everything within this circle has symmetry. Sponges don't have symmetry, so they're outside this circle. Are we good? Okay. Let's just keep going and we'll see if we understand. The next circle is, after symmetry, is what? Bilateral symmetry. And we can. Does it matter if you understand the characters? No. The only thing that matters, now, you have bilateral symmetry. What that means is I can cut you in half and the one side is the same as the other. That's what symmetry means, is that there's similar on two sides. In this case, in case of bilateral symmetry. So if I cut you down the middle, your right and left sides are pretty much the same. And whenever they're asymmetric, whenever they don't match, we notice, don't we? Because most people are the same, right and left. There's usually some small differences, and that's normal. But whenever anything's really radically different from left to right, we really notice it right away. Because normally most of us are bilateral symmetry. That's our species. That's how we are. Many organisms are that way. Dogs are that way, and cats and birds, etc. So bilateral symmetry, what organisms have bilateral symmetry? Everybody but jellyfish. So jellyfish is out. Notice the out group, or the group that doesn't have, is out here. Do you see? So what's the next character that we have to concern ourselves with? Mesoderm. I'm just going to put an M. And here we have mesoderm. What organism does not have mesoderm?
Flatworms or fishes.
So flatworms out. Do you see how this works? So flatworm has bilateral symmetry, has cells with flagella, but does not have mesoderm. Are we all clear? Does it matter that you understand what mesoderm is? No. I mean, in the long term it does, but it doesn't for this exam. All right, so the next is what? Head develops. So now we get to a problem. Is this where you guys saw a problem?
Yeah.
Now here's the problem with head comes first. Head comes first is true for three of them, three of the ones that are left, but not true for the other two. In other words, these five groups have every other character, but then head comes first and anus comes first are two separate circles, aren't they? So the way you solve the problem is you say, well, those things whose heads develop first have mesoderm. First of all five of these creatures have mesoderm, right? But one of them is anus develops first, AF. The other one's head develops first, HF. So that's how you solve the problem with the Venn diagram. You draw two circles within it. Since both of these have mesoderm, this solves the problem, doesn't it? Okay. So of the heads, just the heads develop first, just these three. What are the characters not? Of course, this isn't true for them, so we don't have to worry about that. What about segmented body? Which one of these don't have segmented bodies? The snail. So obviously the next level of organization is going to be segmented body, SB, right? And the snail is the one that doesn't have a segmented body. And what's the next character that separates the last two? The last two. So we had segmented body separated the snail that doesn't have it from the other two. What's the next characteristic that separates the fruit fly from the earthworm?
Tritonus exoskeleton.
That's right. The snail does have, by the way, and actually this makes things a little more difficult, doesn't it? Because what I did. Yeah, let me undo still. What I did is I messed up. I should have put in 2 circles within this one, shouldn't I have? Why do I have to do that? Because what is the other character that's not shown here?
Calcified shell.
That's right, calcified shell. And what is a calcified shell? Which one goes in there? Head develops first, calcified shell, what is it? Snail. This one goes in here, right? Are we good with that?
Yep.
Snail. And the next thing, what's the other one that's over on this side? But the other two that are left, what did they have? Head developed first, and what did they have together? I can't hear it. Segmented body, that's right. Segmented body, SB. And outside the which one did not have a segmented body? Right, the snail, that's outside. So then what is inside? What's the next organizational difference? Next character.
Tritonus exoskeleton.
That's right. So only one of them had I'm going to say a CH exo, right? An exoskeleton made of chitin. So chitinous exoskeleton. And that is what? Fruit flies, right? Fruit flies. Which one did not have that skeleton, exoskeleton? What was it? Earthworm. So this is the earthworm. So that was all that work was for just the head developed first, not for the anus developed first. The 2 organisms whose anus develops first, so interestingly, are humans. And by the way, when we say head or anus developing first, we're talking about the embryological development of the organism within the womb. So when you were being developed, and how do we know how this is? We have miscarriages. We have miscarriages throughout the lifespan, throughout the different developmental stages of the human. For a very long time, doctors have been preserving those miscarriages in jars in some preserved liquids, and we're able to identify the embryological development of humans over time. Now today, of course, we have ultrasound and different imaging techniques, so we can actually look at an embryo developing. But before then, we would collect these and put them in jars and put them in stages of, day 3. This is what a human generally looks like in day 4, day 5, etc. Right? So anus develops first. We know humans develop anus first through the starfish. Which character separates these two? Vertebra and water vascular system, right? One of these has vertebra, the other has. So again, there's 2 circles in this one. One has water vascular system. That's the starfish. And the other one's a vertebra, right? It has vertebrae. And that would be human, that's correct. And this would be an absolutely correct Venn diagram that would allow you to draw out your cladogram without any mistakes. So no one did this. Now, a lot of people came close. Most people, I would say, drew these first 3 or 4 layers without any problem. That's why you got an A+. Because your objective was to come close, and you did that. Great job. I mean that. I'm not being sarcastic or whatever. This is a great job. Now, this part was more difficult. Now you've seen it. When I give you your assignment for this evening, I expect that you're going to be able to do it if indeed you need to, right? To nest your circles in this way. Is that clear for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, that's not all you had to do. The other part that you needed in order to get an A+, you had to be able to do is draw the actual cladogram, right? So let's draw that cladogram based on this Venn diagram. There's your line. What's the first hash mark on, what's the first character we discussed? Well, cells with flagella, right? So everything had cells with flagella. So what was it that had cells with flagella? Well, we know that sponges had cells with flagella. Right. What's the next character? Symmetry. I'm just going to put an S. Symmetry. You know what? I have the space, so I'll write it. Symmetry. And what organism had symmetry? Jellyfish had symmetry. Are we seeing how this works?
Yeah.
So if you got the order wrong, tomorrow you're going to get it wrong when you submit this, right? When you submit this tonight, if I see this order is wrong, I'm going to mark it wrong. So make sure that you get the order correct tonight. So what's the next character? Bilateral symmetry. Bless you. And what organism has bilateral symmetry but doesn't have the rest? Flatworm is correct. What's the next character? Mesoderm. And what organism has a mesoderm but doesn't have the rest of the characters? Oh, not many. In fact, in order to get, so there's no single branch at this point, right? It branches into two. What are the two branches? That's right. So at this stage, you have a branch. Now, there are branches throughout this, but this is a branch of the red line because here, head developed first, HF, and here's what? Anus develops first, right? So of the head develops first, what came after that? Well, head developed first. What was the character that separated those two? Calcified shell. And what was the organism that had a calcified shell? A snail. Oops, I should have drawn this in blue. A snail. And then what character was the other one? The other two? Segmented body, right? Do you see how this is working? Do you see how the Venn diagram can help you, especially if you can actually see it? I'm not zooming in and out because I know what the answer is. So segmented body. And then what two organisms had segmented bodies? Fruit fly and the earthworm. But what was the character that separated the fruit fly from the earthworm? Right. I can't pronounce it either. So we'll just say Chitnaeus or Chitinarius, or however you want to say it. We'll just say CH exo, right? Which one had that type of exoskeleton? The fruit fly. By the way, that means an exoskeleton that is made of chitin, which is a type of sugar, right? It's hard. That's those shells. If you ever swatted a fly, you felt a crunch. That was an exoskeleton crunching. I know it's hard to say, but people probably have squashed a fly before. So what's at the end? Which one has a segmented body but doesn't have this exoskeleton? Say it. Earthworm. All right, so of the anus developing first, right? What happened there? It split again, didn't it? So we had a split. What was the split caused by? This is a water vascular. And what's the other one? Vertebra. Which organisms had the vertebra? And which had the water vascular system? Starfish. Now, we just completed the cladogram, oh my goodness, I did not get that. We just completed the Venn diagram, right? It's complete, it's accurate. Now, could there be more than one way of drawing this? Sure. For instance, I could see this group going this way and this group going that way, right? So there's more than one way. As long as this cladogram matches your Venn diagram or your data, you're good. Because there's more than one correct, sometimes there's more than one correct way of drawing the Venn diagram with the data that you have. As you add more data, some of the possible evolutionary relationships become impossible, and you can take them out of your consideration. Does that make sense? So this would be an accurate Venn diagram. You get 100% if you did something like this tomorrow, and you see why there was a trick to it, and why things aren't always as simple as you might think they are. Right? But it is pretty straightforward if you take it one step at a time, right? It just takes a little effort on your part. Well, it's 2:14. You have 4 minutes left. I want to respect your time. I want to pass out. I want to first make sure everybody understands that tomorrow I expect you guys to be able to have your homework, which is the stuff that was due today, uploaded by tomorrow. Or it's going to have to...
Do this?
No, if you've done it... Wait, redo what? Not this. I'm not talking about this. I gave you homework on Friday that was supposed to be done by today. Is that right? So you have till tomorrow. Now, it's an F in the grade book right now, but if you submit it before tomorrow, you can get credit. After tomorrow, you're not going to be able to submit it. Is that clear? Because you're actually going to work together tomorrow. Those people that don't submit it, you'll be working on that on your own tomorrow. Everyone else will be working together to get the answers correct. Is that clear to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So, that being said, I'd like to pass out to you the homework. That's the work that I expect to grade and it be accurate, right? All right. Any other questions on your part? Any concerns that you'd like to bring up? Seeing no hands, I'll let you guys do what you gotta do. Upload whatever you gotta upload and do what you need to do. I'll pass out the work that's due tomorrow. There's another assignment due tomorrow, right? Because the thing you're supposed to upload tonight, you should have done already. So that was due today. So you get double the homework if you didn't get it done.
Do it like a PDF thing?
I would like it as a PDF, but if you need to take a picture. Oh, by the way, amazing discovery. Those of you that have Droid phones, you can go to Google. You can go to Google Drive and use Google Drive to scan. You can actually use Google Drive to scan. It'll scan and upload it as a PDF, multiple pages, automatically. You can't do that with an iPhone, unfortunately. You need to get an app because Google, for whatever reason, Google Drive doesn't have that function on iPhones. Are we clear?
Yeah.
All right. It is a little corny, but that has to do with politics. All right. The next thing is... I guess that's it. I can't think of anything else. All right.